Hey, good evening, Cape Pledge Stories. Goeienaand, Kaapse vlakte. Hoop het gaan goed samen met jullie. Tonight we're going to speak to James Fernie from Uthando, the organization. He does amazing work on the Cape Flats. So it's myself and Byron that will chat with him. I want you guys to please tune in, chat with us, and see the amazing work that James are currently busy with and that he has been busy with over the years. And it's nice to see, how different people, from different backgrounds, how we come together and how we can change the Cape Flats. And there's a lot of things you guys will also learn and hear maybe for the first time. So please do share this live broadcast and do tune in because we're gonna have a liquor chat. This is gonna be ourselves with James and Byron. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Byron. James, welcome.
Hey.
How's yes,
James, I
Byron?
think James's internet washed him away there also for a bit. But while we are on that and we're waiting for James, maybe you should just click him out and he will probably hop back on.
He's back.
Are you there, James?
Yes,
It seems like your internet was failing now on that side.
Let me take my computer maybe closer to the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
We have had some issues.
Cool, but Stanley, but without that saying, man, it was your birthday today. That's the whole point. That's what we're talking about. And James just said before this, we're gonna sing "Happy Birthday" to Stanley before we start the show. Yes, nothing happens without celebrating a life and celebrating. So James, I heard James is a good singer and he does so much good. So we're gonna start that thing. Stanley, hoe begin die liedjies op die Cape Flex? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Stanley. Happy birthday to you. God bless you today. God bless you always. God bless you and keep you. Happy birthday to Stanley. Hip hip hip.
Thank you.
Hooray. Hy kleine piepie. So any wishes, Stanley? En goed, jy's nou ver gekom met Cape Flats stories. You've done a lot of amazing stuff on the Cape Flats. I mean, a lot of people will think it's just a social media platform. A lot of people will think this is just a show that we're celebrating on and we just talking to people every day. But there's a lot of groundwork you do also that comes with us. It's not just a Facebook page. It's a community mouthpiece in the end of the day. And that's why we have James here today. But Stanley, wil net hoor van jou. How was your day, man? And did you have a special day today? It's every mense dankie vir die birthday wishes. Tell the people that there's so much love from your side. And ek kan sien die wangetjies in the shining of all that cookies or cook sisters or whatever is in the household. But he doesn't share. That's the problem. But he's using COVID as an excuse.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, everybody that wished me. When I started Cape Flats Stories, it was just a page, but it's a little organization now. And our heart is in the communities. I've realized we can't just be another Facebook page. We have to be change agents. So thank you very much for you guys for supporting me. Without your support, Cape Flats Stories would have never moved out. From a Facebook page to organization. So thank you very much. And thank you, Byron. Thank you, James.
So now we're just gonna start with James. James, a lot of people, Caucasian guy, Cape Flats Stories, they asking us what the hell, what is the Caucasian guy sitting there doing there, talking about the Cape Flats? What does he know about the Cape Flats? But as we and Stanley speaks highly about you, as I said before the show, all the wonderful work you're doing. A lot of our people work in one community, brother, be it in Heidelveld, be it in Hanover Park, in Bonteville or Bellar, wherever it is. But you are involved everywhere in the Cape Flats. Where have you started with this? Why have you started this initiative? What made you start it in the end of the day?
Well, so thank you very much for having me. First of all, it's a great privilege to be with you this evening. So I started Uthando in 2008, and essentially I used to do international marketing in the tourism industry. And I wanted to somehow get involved in development and upliftment and showcasing really inspiring people doing amazing and courageous work in the Cape Flats. And the vehicle to do that was an organization called Uthando, which in English means love. And the idea was to use the resources within the tourism industry that I had developed over a number of years. So that was my sphere of influence, really, the tourism industry, to connect the tourism industry with community development projects across all different sectors, from urban agriculture to early childhood development centers, youth development, senior citizens, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't pretend to know the needs and desires and wants of the Cape Flats. All I'm really wanting to do from a very modest point of view is to identify change makers, activists, people who are running really interesting community development projects and social entrepreneurs, and in the way that I can, to highlight the work that they are doing, specifically within the tourism industry, but also in a broader context. And while doing that, to help raising money for those programs. So Uthando is actually a non-profit organization, and we generate our income mostly through the tourism industry. And one of the ways in which we do that is by taking people out on tours to visit community development projects. So, for example, one of the Cape Flats stories is Mario Fernie from Greater Commission United in Heideveld. And over the years, we've developed a very, very close working relationship with Mario. We would, for example, take visiting sports groups who might be here from England or Europe or wherever in the world to go and play soccer or sport with the kids at various schools through GCU in Heideveld, thereby also raising money to support the work that Mario is doing, but also very importantly, for people to listen to Mario's story and for that story to inspire people to want to help in the courageous work that he's doing. And that's really, in a nutshell, there are many different elements to it, but over the years, we've managed to work in virtually every community, from Masiphumelele in the deep south through to Macassar on the far east, eastern border of the city, and every community in between. Yeah.
For me, that's quite interesting what you said also, and I think what you meant in between is not like you trying to understand people's suffering, because the only way you can do that is when you live in those conditions. All you're trying to do is trying to help and how can I say, and empathize with compassion towards people, because when you put yourself in their shoes, which sometimes you can't, all you can do is just empathize with people. So I know you said you started this up like that, but what drew you really closer to the Cape Flats? Because there's always something that draws you closer. And a lot of people would say when it's someone well off or someone affluent or someone rich helping people on the Cape Flats or helping people that's in poverty, they say they're always looking for something. There's always a catch. There's always a catch in something, and I don't like to ask those type of questions, but it needs to be asked. And by looking at what you do, and I see so much good. I don't see any negativity. I see that you're reaching out and you're trying to spread love, especially what your company name stands for. I think that's what you said. Let's show love. Let's spread love, or what do you say? Let's spread love instead of fear. How did you come about that name? Also, why does that name exist? Love instead of fear. That's very profound, because a lot of people say, you need to be fearful to be able to love and all these things. But why love instead of fear in the end of the day?
Yeah. So Byron, basically, I recently turned 50 years old, and having grown up as a teenager in the 1980s in apartheid South Africa, I came from a very privileged English-speaking background. I grew up in the Eastern Cape, in a city called East London, and I went to a very privileged school, Selborne College, but I always felt a bit of an anomaly in school. I started writing letters to the Daily Dispatch when I was 16, 17 years old, speaking out against apartheid. I couldn't understand at the time, like, why are people, non-white people, not allowed on the beaches or to attend our schools or to live in our suburbs? If an Indian or a colored person moved into a white neighborhood, it was headlines in the Sunday Times. I mean, it was insane. And I couldn't understand it. And today, we don't have legislative apartheid, but of course we still have economic apartheid. And we need to raise the level of awareness, the level of consciousness amongst privileged South Africans that the legacy of apartheid is going to be with us for many, 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 many generations. And so when we started Uthando back in 2008, the seed for Uthando was actually started when I visited an organization called Jikeleza Dance Project in Hout Bay. And I watched these children coming from Imizamo Yetu and Hamburg doing ballet. And the idea, I sat there just with such an incredible warm feeling in my heart, so proud of a project like this that is giving these children life-saving opportunities, not only to keep them entertained in the afternoon, but also to provide, a skill that will enhance whatever career they're going to follow in their lives. But they get the discipline, they get the confidence, they get the protection in the afternoon of being in a safe space, surrounded by people who care for them and imparting whatever skill. And the name Love came about as really just wanting to spread sincere seeds of love and kindness and connection. And when we are out on our tours, when we are introducing people to community projects, the spirit and the atmosphere amongst people is so powerful. I wish I could bottle that emotion and share it with all people, not in South Africa, but all around the world. And then maybe we would be able to understand that the trials and tribulations that people have to go through, just in their daily lives. But I don't like to focus. I mean, obviously people are experiencing enormous suffering. But how do we create a consciousness of what the people are experiencing? And my way of doing that is not to say, oh, shame, look at the people, they need help. Let's give them some soup or food or whatever the case may be. The angle that we are coming in with is saying, wow, look at Auntie Avril and her team in Hanover Park. Look at Mario and Heidefeld and what he's doing. Look at the Amy Foundation and how they're developing young people. Mm-hmm. Look at Zama Dance School in Gugulethu that has 100 children teaching them classical ballet. Wow, these are amazing projects. These are life-changing projects. Let's rather focus on the creativity, on the dynamic courage of the people living there. And through those change makers, then we will be able to trickle down and see the support that starts being galvanized through showing these stories of hope and courage and resilience. Obviously things like soup kitchens and feeding schemes, these are really important and life-changing, life-saving initiatives like Ladles of Love right now are providing, life-saving food to people. But there are so many more projects like Seed in Mitchell's Plain, like Abalimi Bezakaya with the incredible vegetable gardens like the Siyazama Garden in Khayelitsha, or the Moyawikaya Garden, or the Ikaya Garden run by Xolisa Bangani in Site C in Khayelitsha. The moment we start showcasing these stories of incredible people with inspiration, with courage on the Cape Flats, and showing that to people in the rest of Cape Town, creating the consciousness that we need to help. We need to help those people transform their communities. So I'm not coming in saying, oh, let's help the poor people on the Cape Flats. We are coming in saying, wow, let's recognize these incredible people who are doing amazing work, and let's support them in whatever way we can.
Wow.
I love that. I love that. And just to come back to you, just what you said, a lot of times, you can give food, you can give people soup and things like that. But it's also, we also need to look at the well-being of our people. We also need to see a lot of our people in our communities have been hurt over the years, and some things food can't really fix, and that is where we come in as humans, and we try and assist. And like you said, we need different people in the communities to assist. Many people think when you give food, you actually fix the problem. But you might give that somebody something to eat for now, but it doesn't mean that the person's well-being will be impacted positively. And that's where we need to come and chat with these people. If you look at many places where you've been over the last couple of years, James, you will notice there's a big demand in our community for recreational facilities. That's something that we literally don't have. I mean, a place like Parkwood, many years later, still don't have a library. There's no proper recreational facilities. That's just Parkwood. There's other areas as well. And I think that is where people need to come on board, and that is where people need to invest. Money must be. It's actually difficult to talk about money, but you need money to build these things. You need the support of people. You just wrote something about on your page, rebuild and reimagine, and I think that is something amazing. If you can reimagine, let's forget about for now about apartheid, but let's see how can we rebuild these communities. Let's see how we can take hands together. I said this last week, and I think Byron was with me, or it was on the other show. We need to see each other as South Africans, and we stop need to use that state segregation laws of 1950s group act, and we need to start working together. The only way we're gonna fix the Cape Flats and the townships is when we come together with a plan of action and realize, but these people are not only living in poverty, but they don't have proper schools, they don't have proper educational centers, they don't have libraries, and that is exactly what we need to focus on. And I mean, you have seen over the years, you obviously seen that there's a big need when it comes to education.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
I wasn't surprised at the events that unfolded in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng 10 days ago. I feel a real sense of urgency to the situation in South Africa. And I think what happened in the last 2 weeks was, I hope and I pray that it was a wake-up call, that we need to focus on broadening the middle ground. People can't eat a vote. So it's all very well to have democracy, but we need to have economic equality. And there's an urgency to it. We need to, I believe, people, privileged communities, no matter what race they are, need to show that they care. They need to reach out to community projects, to individuals. They need to show a deep and sincere commitment to putting their hand out to other communities. Because if we don't grow the middle ground and push the extremists and the radicals to the sides, my fear is that the radicals and the extremists will grow the middle ground. And last year during level 5 lockdown, I felt very privileged to be invited to Hanover Park to a very sad event when a young boy was shot by the gangs. And I attended a memorial there one evening with the ladies from the Alcada Andrews Foundation and the Hanover Park Cricket Club. And I was very struck when the pastor who was leading the ceremony welcomed myself and a friend of mine who had come from Harfield Village specifically and said, you know what, a lot of white people give things, but very few of them actually come and come to our communities. And that is what people need to do. That is what Cape Townians and privileged people in every other cities, they need to, how can they not know how their neighbors are living? You know?
Well, you spoke so profoundly when you said those things now. And one thing I want to take away with when you said the equality part, you did not even use the word white, black, or colored, or Indian. You said privileged people. That's so profound. Need to understand they're privileged, because every time when you speak about privilege, people jump, oh, no, you're being racist again because you think I'm white, I'm privileged and stuff. No one said about white. We're just speaking about privilege. And how did you define that? Because it takes a strong and aware person, because a lot of people get offended when you call them privileged. And it's like a race card nowadays. If you say, but you're privileged, oh, you're being racist towards me because of my skin color. No, I just said you're privileged. And how can we help the communities? And something else you said that's very profound is, yes, we need to help to close the gap to equality, but it affects you. And a lot of people might say also, how does it affect us? I'm living my life. I'm working hard for my family. I'm doing well for myself. But poverty leads to gangsterism. It leads to murders. It leads to rape. Because when people are hungry, they want to survive. That's what humans do, unfortunately, when they're pushed in the corner. Put yourself in the corner at the work also when you're retrenched and you maybe just have matric. You don't have any qualifications. This is the job you had for 15 years. You think you can't get another job. You're going to try to hold tight. So you're going to become shrewd in every way to survive. This is what people do that's poverty stricken. They have not no way out. They don't understand how to get out because there's no hand pulling them up. Unfortunately, some people don't take that hand, but there are others that do. And as soon as you lift them up, there's more protection in the world. So people don't understand that equality creates more protection and more peace in the end of the day. So that was well said by your side. I just want to mention that.
Thank you. Well, South Africa, we must remember, is actually a microcosm of the world at the moment. I mean, you look at countries like the United States, which is one of the most unequal societies as well, with, absolute extreme wealth. We saw it recently with 2 billionaires flying into space, so they could have a couple of minutes weightless in the outer atmosphere, while 50% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And of course, the climate catastrophe is busy unfolding, while they're burning massive amounts of fossil fuels. We can't continue to live like this. It's not just a South African issue, it's a global issue. The extreme wealth and the extreme poverty. The difference in South Africa is that you have it coexisting right next to each other. And I think if South Africans have not woken up after seeing violence and looting and destruction coming into the very heart of our cities and privileged suburbs, if that was not a wake-up call to privileged South Africans all around, that this country could actually burn to the ground literally in 1 week. Unless we can build a middle ground, unless we can empower people, recognize people who are doing amazing work, and support them. And I think a big challenge is many, I would say, wealthier, more privileged South Africans, and I include myself in that. People who have a decent home, we have a roof over our heads, we have food on our tables, etc. Many people look to the government and say, well, we're paying very high tax, therefore it's their responsibility. just look all around the world. Governments are failing the people in many respects. And so it's up to the people on the ground. All successful revolutions, and I'm not saying we need a revolution, although I do believe we need a revolution of the heart. We need a revolution of consciousness. We need a revolution of awareness. People need to step out of their comfort zones, and they need to truly start working at a grassroots level to build the country. And in the Cape Town context, that means getting out into the Cape Flats, transcending the fear that people have maybe of going into particular communities. I would never suggest them going on their own, but there are many, many organizations and people that they could accompany to see firsthand the challenges, but also the solutions and how to support those solutions. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like maybe I sound like I'm preaching or giving a sermon, but it's very heartfelt and it's very sincere. I mean, we have built 5 early childhood development centers across the Cape Flats in various communities, and we've never asked anything in return. All I want to see is development. All I want to see is community projects thriving and growing and prospering and continuing to develop their own communities.
Wow, that is amazing. That you've put in so much time, so much effort, so much resources into. You want to build our community, and that for me, that is amazing. And that's exactly what we need. And the more of these type of projects, if the assistance we get, more youngsters will see role models, and they will look up to these people, and they're gonna want to do the same. But at the moment, in many areas of the Cape Flats, the only heroes there is the gangsters, it's the drug lords. But if we do stuff like this, if a gentleman like James comes along, and I see what this guy is really working in our community, look at himself, I want to be like him, and that is what it's about. And I'm sure many of our young people on the Cape Flats admire you. So thank you so much for what you're doing. And like you said, government politicians make these promises. We're gonna do this and that and this and that. But unfortunately, the revolution won't start with politicians. It's gonna start with the humans, the citizens of these places, and that is what we need to get right. Politicians will need our vote, yes, to have a government going. But at the end of the day, we are the ones that's going to have to make the difference. And that's where I commend you for that, James. Thank you so much. It makes my heart glad to know that over the years you've built these establishments where our children, my cousins and my nephews and my auntie children will attend these facilities. So well done. And we need more of that. I don't know, Byron. Okay. Byron is freezing. Deep. But James...
I mean, I thank you for those very kind comments. But at the end of the day, we all doing our bit. You're doing amazing work, and so many of your colleagues, and we all play a part. It's like a puzzle,
right.
And it's very tiring work. Often, I know we feel like we're swimming upstream. We're swimming against the tide. It can be very demotivating. And, we need each other. We need to inspire each other. We need to motivate each other to carry on. And I'm the one who feels deeply privileged to be welcomed by you on this show, to be welcomed on the Cape Flats by people with beautiful hearts. With kind hearts. I've always felt I don't want to carry on the subject of apartheid, but it's so amazing that people who have had to endure so much are still so kind and still so forgiving and patient. And the real kindness is actually from the people on the Cape Flats. I feel deeply privileged to be loved and to be welcomed by just the most beautiful people. And I wish I could share that emotion with people in Cape Town who live in privileged suburbs, and they don't really understand. They don't have an inkling of just how amazing the people on the Cape Flats actually are.
And you are so right. We have a handful of people that gangsters and drug lords that want to keep our people hostage. But yet the majority of our people are amazing people, because whenever you type in on Google, you type in the Cape Flats, you will see people with tattoos, and that is just how Google displays the Cape Flats, and people with guns. But I have to say that this we have been stereotyped over the years as gangsters, as bad people. But here you come in, you've been here in our communities, and you have seen the purity of our people, the kindness. And what I also like is that you haven't come here and gone again, but you have stayed here, and you're still staying here. I see you are busy with the project currently now in Delft. Do you want to tell us more about that project? I believe the project will commence the 1st of September or mid?
So basically, there are many millions of kids in South Africa who are not attending a preschool. And if you can imagine what a disadvantage children are at if they are starting their primary school having not attended a decent preschool or early childhood development center. So in 2010, we, together with other partners, embarked upon a campaign to identify preschools or early childhood development centers that were being run by effective principals, and mostly out of shacks or old shipping containers with really, not very great facilities. And we've managed to transform 5 from sort of shack structures into really beautiful world-class buildings. And there are other organizations like Ikamva or SAEP that then provide the training and the standards of ethics for the teachers and the principal to ensure that quality education takes place at those preschools. And the last one we did was Masiphumelele, which was a double-story shack in Khayelitsha, and we opened that school in 2019, and now we were supposed to start construction of Ulwazi Educare in Delft last year in April, but of course COVID came about, and the plans had to be put on hold. But essentially, in the middle of September, we'll be starting on a 2.2 million rand construction project, transforming the few shipping containers that are on that property now. The principal is Patiswa, and they have about 120 children and 7 staff. And by February, they should have a really beautiful, world-class building that can accommodate 120, 130 kids, with a beautiful astroturf and jungle gym. Wow. And you know what? A lot of our clients say to us, "Aren't you overwhelmed, with the poverty and the violence and the gangsterism?" And you know what? We change the world one person at a time. So it's in the broader scheme of things, 5 preschools is not a lot, but it's our contribution, and we will continue for as long as we can, and I will never give up on the Cape Flats. Running Uthando is not just a job; it's really a calling, and I appreciate the work greatly. Have I lost you guys? There we go.
Awesome. No, we are still here. Awesome stuff. And what I want to say actually, um, we the money spent and the time put in into these projects. What do you think if more of these schools or these facilities are built across the townships and the Cape Flats? Do you think this would make a big difference in not immediately, but within the next 5 to 10 years, if money are spent on more educational facilities? Do you think this would be something that we can see as a future permanent possible solution to get more youngsters from the streets? And also, well, this obviously it creates jobs as well because now people will be employed as well. So if people invest more into this type of ideas, will this be the antidote? I always say that education is the antidote, but if we build more of these facilities, can we expect to see a decrease in crime and in poverty?
Well, I think the eradication of poverty is really dependent upon people working, people being employed in decent jobs, well-paying jobs, and the way to achieve that is by starting education, at the right age, and certainly a holistic education starts at the preschool level, not at the primary school level. If you look at the numeracy and literacy statistics of South Africa, we're very far down. I think we're almost near the bottom in world rankings, and this is in spite of the fact that the government are spending per capita very high amounts on education. So I think there has to be a lot of introspection as to where we are going wrong as a country, in that investment is not paying off, in that we have, I don't know, the official unemployment rate is somewhere around 30%. Youth unemployment 40 to 50%. And I don't, in my own humble opinion, an education does not mean going to a university to become an accountant or a lawyer or a doctor. But bricklayers and plumbers and electricians, artisans, people that can use their hands and build the country, build the infrastructure of the country. So yes, we need a mass mobilization. The government needs to spearhead that program. We should be investing in teaching and nursing and skilled artisans, and quality preschools are the foundation, because children start dreaming from a young age, don't they? I mean, we all start dreaming from a young age, what we want to do in our lives, who we want to be. And during the day, we need a safe, secure place to be. We don't want to be at home where we are, vulnerable, not being educated, feeling hopeless, have no structure. So yes, absolutely. I see children going to preschools as the very foundation of a springboard, which enables them to realize their goals and achieve, opportunities in their lives.
I'm sorry, I just missed a couple of those things because the wind blew me to the one side, so I had to go get another dongle to get myself back connected. You pay so much for internet, but it's still not trustworthy. It's still not trustworthy in the end of the day. Yeah, man. So for me, the last part that I that I got on that side, you said about government, but the last thing that I was still touching on, and I don't want to just harbor onto it, but it's the way that you found the compassion to go and help in these communities, and also the thing that we spoke about, that it's getting closer to the privileged areas and all these things. But we need to understand some of these people are not even seeing that. They just say, we're going to protect ourselves. These guys are vultures. These guys are non-thinkers. They don't care about the community. So how do we help these people to understand these people that are doing these things? Because these people are being instigated by other people by looting and by robbing and by all these things. How do we help people that's privileged to understand these people?
Yeah, therein lies the rub. I mean, we are actually in the process of conceptualizing a campaign of kindness that we will be launching in August. We have some very interesting people who are helping to put videos and other material together, and some interesting endorsements possibly. And I just think we need to carry on creating the consciousness. I know that we use our social media platforms to showcase every single day the good stories, the positive stories, and try and encourage people to reach out and support those programs. I think if you are trying to scare people, you know, through using fear to try and convince them that they need to do good or they need to reach out, I think they probably will go further into their lager or their camp. So it's a very tricky balance, really. But I just feel the best way to raise the level of awareness and to raise the level of consciousness is to consistently and continuously and vigorously focus on the individuals and the community projects who are operating in these communities, and trying to convince people to support them and to learn about them, to go and visit them, and come from a constructive and a positive point of view, not a negative point of view. But I do feel and I do have a tremendous sense of urgency, and I have felt that for quite some time. And sadly, even though I think I, like many other South Africans, suffered some sort of post-traumatic stress syndrome from the events and of Durban, and speaking to friends who were, you know, stuck in their houses while looters were marauding outside, you know, I just want to scream from the rooftops, come on, guys, you know, we need to, if not out of the moral compass, for your own security, get out behind your high walls and get out and help to create the South Africa that we all want and we all deserve. I couldn't help but think that as the rain was falling on Cape Town last week, you know, it was Mandela's tears at how the Rainbow Nation was being torn apart, because the society is in a bad way, and only the people on the ground can really start to create it. We can't wait for the government. Let's rather get on with the job, and hopefully the politicians will follow us.
I love what you said there.
And I agree with you there.
I just wanted to, there's one thing. You help a lot in the communities and probably touch base, I would say, if I'm not mistaken, with soup kitchens and places like that, if I'm right?
Yeah.
So especially on the Cape Flats, and I know my mother, and there's wonderful people on the Cape Flats doing soup kitchens and helping the community, but there's always this unsi and what you say, quarrel between people, even though they're helping people out of their goodness, out of their heart. But there's people and elements that help in between that always have a problem, that's always looking for something out of it. Be it even with the pastors, I don't even want to go there, good people also. But these type of elements that's always in between, have you come across that? Also discovering the nature of the community, and how do you address that? How do you overcome that also with your initiative?
Yeah, look, that is, you know, I sometimes think the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and very often, you know, and especially at a grassroots level, when resources are involved, you know, it can create conflict. And as running a nonprofit, we really do try our best to ensure that the projects that we are supporting are, you know, providing reputable feedback to us in terms of, you know, audited financial statements, and reflect that the work that they're doing on the ground. At a certain time, I also understand that, you know, we can't get involved in the internal infighting or dynamics of community projects. So we certainly demand and require a certain degree of accountability and transparency if we are providing funding. But also there comes a time when I feel I can't be too attached to the result. So I do the best we can. I try to ensure that we have the utmost accountability and transparency. But I also, at a certain time, have to let go of the result. So I mustn't, for example, expect gratitude. You know, if people want to say thank you, then that's great, then that's awesome. But I do this to make sense of the world. The work that I do enables me to get through each day. And especially at this time in history where, as humans, we are facing a convergence of really unprecedented crises, from economic to climate change, you know, to the destruction of the natural world. There's a lot happening, and the only way to get through it is together. And so I hear what you're saying. I try to disengage from a conflict that happens within internal structures of the community projects that we're supporting, whilst at the same time ensuring the highest standards of accountability and transparency from the organizations that we are working with.
Awesome. I just want to ask you some quickly, just moving away from the Cape Flats. I want to ask you, you are also expert in the travel and tourism industry. You've been working in the travel and tourism industry for quite a while. And you know it's difficult nowadays because you know there's nothing coming in. So for people that are working in the travel and tourism industry is actually struggling. But I want to ask you this: do you think that you know most of the tours that are happening in Cape Town is mostly on the other side of the mountain? But do you think with all these good things happening on the Cape Flats, we have potential that the Cape Flats can turn into a travel and tourism hub later on? Because a lot of things are happening, a lot of things has been happening, but I feel that we as Cape Flats citizens are tapping into the travel and tourism market. You know, there is too little people coming to the Cape Flats to do tours. What is your view on that a bit? You know, because that could also potentially then turn into job creation.
Yes. So yeah, obviously at the moment the tourism industry is, you know, severely crippled by the COVID and the lockdown. But we have developed a very successful model of connecting tourism with community development. You know, so let me give you an example of what I'm referring to. So, you know, in 2019, there was a group of about 80 or 90, mostly older African Americans. They were here for the Cape Town Jazz Festival. They were only in Cape Town for 3 days. And they could have done, you know, there's so much to do in Cape Town. But I felt such a privilege. They gave 1 full day to Uthando. And we took them to visit jazz and music projects, like, for example, the Kronendal Music Academy in Hout Bay, which is run by Dwin Grissel, where they provide musical tuition and many other life skills. I mean, many of these community projects they're not only providing skills, but they're providing, support and psychological support, because many of them come from, traumatized backgrounds and families, etc. And, then we went out to Kailicha, where we saw IMAD, which was the Institute for Indigenous Music and local choirs. And as a result of that day, we were able to invest, 80,000 Rand that had been generated into those community projects that we visited. The same, for example, by visiting Seed in Mitchell's Plain. We've been able, and I think in the last financial year, we were able to donate 160,000 Rand to Seed. So there's the tourism industry is one of the biggest sectors of the economy in the Western Cape. And why wouldn't people from the Cape Flats want to have a slice of that pie? But, one has to ensure that the companies that are operating in these spaces are showcasing these communities in a way that is not voyeuristic, it's not invasive, it's respectful, it's beneficial to all concerned. In other words, the visitors are having an amazing, insightful experience, but the locals are also benefiting through, financial contributions to community projects, or people are buying products from them, or whatever the case may be. So there has to be, it has to be beneficial to everybody. Of course, there are challenges that are growing. The taxi violence, the gang violence. I mean, I would love to take visitors into Hanover Park to go and meet Auntie Avril and Leslie and the other mothers from Moms Move for Justice. Or into Mannenberg to go and see the Brave Rock Girls, the work they're doing. But as things stand at the moment, I wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't be safe or appropriate for me to take clients there. And if you look at communities like Kailicha, over the last year, there's been massive land invasion. So now you find in all the entrances to Kailicha, there's vast informal settlements, and there's been a lot of volatility around that. So it's become increasingly, one has to obviously, if you are taking people on trips to the Cape Flats, one has to be very sure that you are looking after their safety. So I think there's an enormous opportunity once the tourism industry starts cranking up to open the door of the tourism industry to people in other communities who should be able to enjoy the benefits of such a vibrant and such a lucrative sector of the economy. But one has to really examine exactly how it's done, and it has to be done with integrity and beneficial to everybody concerned. I'm not sure. Does that answer your question, Stan?
Stanley, I hope you're not eating birthday cake and left us on the one side alone. I'm so sorry. He's controlling the system on that side. Probably the internet, just what happened to me or so. We're having ISP shortages, so ISP problems on our side, I mean. So you are on the screen at this very moment, so the question can only be yours on this side. But before I go ahead, there was a question I just had on that side, and you answered that quite profound, and it's so true. Also, people, it's dangerous. We need to call a spade. You can't take people into the Cape Flats at the moment. You can't take people into dangerous areas because you're putting their lives at risks. And that's what you're doing when you do those things. So the question I wanted to ask you now, as going forward or so, moving forward with what you've done with your initiative, and what I also loved what you said earlier is that you don't get stuck too much on the results. You just believe that the initiative that you give to is a good initiative, and it will benefit and it will move forward from there onwards. So before we probably end, because this is around about close to the end of the show, I don't know if Stanley had a birthday cake ready for him at this time and he forgot about us. But the question I want to ask was, and earlier, and Stanley brought it to light. When people see guys like you on the Cape Flats, and I'm going to be honest, young guys also, they have this inferiority complex upon themselves, because they feel this guy is more superior than me, is a little bit more privileged, because this is how we grow up. You're aware of that, and you're solely aware of that. And Stanley brought up this thing where he said that we should, on the Cape Flats, bring more gentlemen like you on, so the younger kids and the younger crowds can articulate with you and speak to you, and also talk to you guys and know that it's okay. There's nothing to fear. You're just like me. How do you bring that across when you communicate with the youngsters on the Cape Flats?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think very importantly, I'm never going in on my own. When I'm going into the Cape Flats, I am going to connect with local people through their existing leadership structures. So I'm not pretending to come in with local people through their existing leadership structures. I think there's also I'm not. There's an echo there. Okay, is it back on?
Yes, it's fine. Back? It should be fine.
Okay.
Stanley, we just said you went to go enjoy your birthday cake, and
yeah, we are back. And apologies. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's fine. It should be fine.
Okay.
Stanley, we just said you went to go enjoy your birthday cake.
Sorry, I do apologize. Yeah, we are back. And apologies. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's fine. It should be fine.
So Byron, just to answer. Oh, sure, but there and my I need to grab my charger quickly. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry.
Yes, Stanley. So I don't know if I'm getting an echo back. Just on the one side, Stanley, we asked the question: because we know a lot of kids that when they see guys like James, they have this inferior complex about them. So they feel like guys like them are more superior than us. I don't know if it's your thing echoing back on your side. So that's the question we just posed on that one, and James is just answering it on his side.
Awesome.
Okay, so when we're going into the Cape Flats, let's say for example with a tour, where we're taking people to go and visit a community project, I think we are going in from a very respectful point of view, and we are always connecting with the local people through the leadership of whichever project. And I think we are actually we are really proud of what they are doing. We are recognizing their efforts. We are providing what's the word I'm looking for? When confirmation that they are on the right track. We're proud of them. We're proud to show, what sports they're playing, or what dance they're doing, or what music they're playing. And I feel that we, through our presence, we are recognizing their efforts, and they sense the sincerity, that we are not coming in, from a condescending point of view, to come and, kind of look down and see what they're doing. We're coming in from at a grassroots level in a very respectful way. And I think they feel, well, I know they feel that their efforts are recognized. Somebody is taking the time to shine a light on the work that they're doing, and they must be very proud of themselves. And we need to propagate that. The more recognition and the more light that can shine on them, the more people will hopefully become involved, and that's how we can grow the movement of good and positivity. Yeah.
I think that answered so much. From my side, you've covered a lot of bases, and I just wish your organization goes from strength to strength. That might be non-profit, but it's not just a organization, but it's a movement as such. I would like to believe,
That's right.
and
Thank
I
you.
just want you guys to grow from strength to strength. A lot of people don't like having these talks. They want to have talks of money, just money being given to them. They don't want to have talks of how to help, where to help, and how to help others. But it's guys like you that touch ground that might change one life, two lives, but you're changing lives. And I take my hat off to you. I take my hat off to you, the way you spoke and the way you've answered things. And it takes a lot of guts to say certain things, because a lot of people like to call people out and say, "Ah, he just trying to be goody two shoes with these colored people, with these people of color." But it takes a lot of guts to speak like that and to bring to give yourself out like that also. So I take my hat off, like I said once again, and all the best for the future with your company.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Stan. I
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much. And
And
it is true what you're saying, Byron. James in Uthando are doing a lot of good work on the Cape Flats. And I've seen many people coming into our communities and then they leave again. And that's sort of, they're just here for a few photos. And once they've got that, and then they're gone. But in your case, you are leaving legacies behind. You are leaving things behind that when we leave this earth, it will still be there. And that is what I see in you. And I want to encourage you not to stop. You inspiring guys like myself and many others as well, because we can learn a lot from you. You can take your resources and use it for yourself, but in this case, you are doing it because you want to see change. So thank you very much for what you're doing, and you will be prosper. You will prosper. You will grow. I'm not gonna pray for you. I know you are gonna grow.
thank you, Stan. And we learn from each other. We we learn from each other and we inspire each other. And I thank you guys for the love and the passion that you have for developing community, broader community in Cape Town. And let us all continue to work together and build the middle ground. And soon I will, once we've conceptualized our campaign of kindness, I will forward that onto you, and let's this sounds like hyperbole or exaggeration, but I've never felt more sincere in my life. Let's start developing a campaign of kindness, a culture of kindness. In Cape Town, in South Africa, and just everywhere.
Awesome.
So
And I'm gonna buy into
yeah,
that. Byron, we're gonna buy into that. We're gonna create
You.
that culture on our platforms in our communities. Let's spread it. The more people that buys into this, sooner we will see a different South Africa, a different Cape
yeah.
Flats.
Thank you,
A different
guys.
world, I would say. As such.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes, have a
yes.
beautiful evening for the guys.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much.
Much
Good night.
appreciated. Thank you.
Good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. James, Fernie, and Byron that joined me tonight. It was a different conversation than we normally have. It was about, a gentleman that comes from his environment, from his area to do good on the Cape Flats. He's built quite a few institutions on the Cape Flats, and that is amazing. When somebody comes from nowhere into our area and he invests, we need to be. We are actually privileged to have him, and we should actually see him as a Cape Flat citizen. So guys, please follow James on his Facebook page on Uthando. You can follow him as on James Fernie, and let's spread some love. We all today we went out and a friend of mine made a few snack boxes for a few people. It wasn't a lot, but when we gave these boxes to the people, you could see the eyes actually sparkled because there was something to eat. So it doesn't matter how small it is. I want to encourage you. If it's one bread that you give to somebody, you are gonna make a difference. If it's one pair of shoes that you don't wear, just polish it up and give it to somebody. You are gonna make a difference. It doesn't matter how small or how big. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, guys, and have an awesome. And thank you for the birthday wishes that is still coming in. It's much appreciated, and have an awesome Monday night. God bless.